Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another marvelous video. This one is for all the horror fans out there. Today, we're gonna take a look at a character played by a former WWE wrestler in a slasher film. This film was the first major one that was produced by WWE Films, and if you have not guessed what it is by now, it is See No Evil. Through this video, we'll be taking you through the life of the antagonist, Jacob Goodnight, played by the legendary Kane. So, grab your tub of popcorn, sit back, and enjoy as we talk about him. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Out. Judge her. Once your soul's clean, you'll be the hand of God.
His early life. Jacob was raised by his mother, who was not just strict, but also extremely cold and cruel to him. Her presence kept Jacob wary and cautious all the time. According to her, the world was full of sinners. She believed that Jacob was the hand of God, and so she used him to kill all the people she considered to be evil. You might wonder how she instilled all this in him. Well, she locked him up in a cage, tortured him, and forced him to execute her twisted version of justice. And he was just a boy while this all started. Pretty twisted, right? As Jacob grew older, things only worsened for him. He no longer just obeyed his mother, he believed her completely. Together, they fixated disturbingly on women who made up the majority of their victims. This was because his mother saw them as corrupt, impure, and deserving of punishment. Jacob did whatever he was told to do. He took their lives in the most brutal way imaginable, by tearing their eyes out. At first, he hesitated when he had to do all this. Somewhere deep inside him, there was still a shred of resistance left, but under his mother's control, that part of him faded away soon. As he did this more and more, killing became so easy that it was almost like second nature to him. By now, he wasn't just her son, he was her weapon, and an obedient one at that. Jacob tended to be in his own world sometimes. It was almost like he was lost in his own suffering, constantly reliving what his mother inflicted on him for so long. Jacob Goodnight was not just a killer, he was a man who was still shackled by all the nightmares of his past.
Know him? He's my son. He's that.
Jacob Goodnight in See No Evil. Jacob refused to kill a woman who had religious markings all over her body. After this, he went into hiding in an old rundown hotel in LA. This was the place where he brought all his victims to. One day, when Jacob was not around, the neighbors heard a woman screaming over and over, repeating a gospel song. So they called the police to come check this out. Officer Blaine and his partner, Frank William, thought they were just investigating yet another abandoned house. Standard police work basically, but what they did not expect was the nightmare waiting for them. The two went through the halls of the old building and found a lifeless young woman. Her eyes had been brutally ripped out. Before they could process this horror, a huge figure came up from the shadows. It was Jacob, obviously, with an axe. In an instant, Blaine was dead. Frank barely had time to react before the axe came down on him, and it ended up severing his arm. But in a desperate final attempt to save himself, he managed to fire one last shot, hitting his attacker in the head. How Jacob managed to survive a gunshot to his head is a mystery to me. When the dust settled, detectives uncovered the full scope of the horror: 7 bodies, all with their eyes torn out. 4 years later, Frank, who was now working with Officer Hannah, was assigned to supervise a group of young offenders: Kira, Christine, Michael, Zoe, Tyson, Melissa, Russell, and Richie. Their task was to clean up the abandoned Blackwell Hotel, which was set to be converted into a homeless shelter. The hotel's owner, Margaret, explained the plan to them, but what no one realized was that something sinister was lurking within the walls of the hotel. That night, as some of the group explored the upper floors, Tyson and Richie decided to go treasure hunting. They had heard rumors of a hidden safe in the hotel. Instead, they stumbled upon a corpse that looked really fresh. The two of them panicked seeing this, and Richie bolted, only to be yanked into an elevator by a hook-wielding Jacob. Margaret noticed the elevator was moving, which made Hannah go investigate. But before she could, she was also slaughtered inside. Kira and Christine tried to flee from there, but Jacob Goodnight, who was now very much alive and even more brutal, attacked them. He hooked Kira and dragged her into a dumbwaiter, disappearing into the depths of the hotel. When Frank and Christine found Tyson, He confirmed the worst. Richie was gone. And then, just like that, Frank was also gone, ripped into the ceiling by the same hook that had taken his partner years ago. Kira remained Jacob's prisoner, locked in a cage. She watched helplessly as Richie was killed, his eyes ripped from his skull. Melissa and Russell were trying to escape, but when Jacob caught up to them, Russell tried to lower Melissa out of a window. It didn't matter. Jacob killed him on the spot, then dropped Melissa to the ground below. She survived the fall, only to be torn apart by a pack of wild dogs. One by one, Jacob hunted them down. Zoe would have made it had it not been for her ringing phone to give away her hiding spot. Jacob silenced her for good by forcing the phone down her throat. Michael, Christine, and Tyson managed to regroup, but when they tried to free Kira, Jacob attacked again. Michael was knocked out cold, so Christine and Tyson tried to escape through the elevator shaft. After escaping, the two ended up finding where Kira was, but Jacob was already there waiting for them. Tyson tried to distract him, but Jacob electrocuted Tyson with his own taser and ended up crushing him under a bank vault. That is when Margaret stepped out of the shadows. She was not just the hotel owner, she was Jacob's mother, the woman who had shaped him into a monster. This entire thing happened because of her, and it was all just a trap to lure Frank into the hotel for revenge. The rest of the victims were just bonuses. She even tried to kill Kira herself, but for the first time, Jacob did not go along. Instead, he ended up turning against her and then hurled her headfirst into the wall. There was a nail protruding from the wall that fatally injured her, and from then on, her reign of terror was over for good. Now that Margaret was dead, Jacob was even more dangerous and uncontrollable. Michael, Christine, and Kira fought him with everything they had. Finally, they ended up stabbing him through his eye with a metal pipe and then shoved him out of a window. He fell through the glass that was below, and a jagged shard impaled his heart. The whole nightmare was finally over for now. These three were the only ones left standing as the sun rose over the hotel. His role in the sequel. So guys, even after it seemed like Jacob was done for in the first film, he shows up again in this one. We are introduced to workers at the morgue, Amy, Seth, and Holden, who get the news that the bodies from the Blackwell Hotel are being delivered soon. Amy, who was supposed to celebrate her birthday with her friends that day, stayed back to help her colleagues. Seth and Amy both deal with all the corpses, and one among them is Jacob's. Amy soon discovers that Holden has let her friends Kaya, Carter, and Tamara, along with her brother Will, throw a party for her in the morgue. Nothing says happy birthday like partying with dead bodies, right? Anyways, during the party, Will pulled Seth aside and warned him to stay away from Amy. He was convinced that she deserved better. Seth storms off from there and heads back to work. Will is not done yet. He goes to Amy next and tells her that he is disappointed she left med school to work at the morgue. Amy also leaves the party because of this. Tamara, who had a weird obsession with serial killers and death, sees this as an opportunity. She convinces Carter to sneak inside the morgue with her so they can get a good look at Jacob's body. The eerie atmosphere, mixed with the rush of standing next to a real-life murderer, excites her in ways she did not expect. As things started to heat up between her and Carter, the unthinkable happened. Jacob's eyes snapped open. He was still alive. Jacob attacks and kills Carter before he could react. Tamara managed to escape and ran for her life. Jacob looked around the room for his next victims. He covered his scarred face with a burn victim's mask and armed himself with surgical tools. He also cut the building's power, and the entire place was now dark. Tamara's screams were heard throughout the halls, which alerted the rest of the group that something was going wrong. They all went to look for her in different directions, and soon Jacob got hold of another one of them. Holden was the first one to get caught, and Jacob mortally wounded him. Kayla, Amy, Will, and Tamara all realized that they are now trapped inside with a killer loose, and they tried to make their way up, but Jacob was always one step ahead of them, and he ended up blocking all the exits. Just when it seemed like there was no hope for them, Seth came to their rescue with a set of keys to open the emergency staircase, but Jacob came up right behind him, so these people had no choice but to split up again because of this. Kayla ran into a bathroom hoping to hide, but Jacob found her quick. He wrapped his hands around her throat, strangling the life out of her. With her final words, she thanked God, and Jacob hesitated because of this. For a brief moment, he was lost in his own mind, haunted by memories of his abusive and religious mother. But Kayla was already dying. Jacob coldly muttered, asking why God would help her, before moving on to his next victims. Tamara was his next victim. He hunted her down and killed her. Then he caught Will and used him as bait to lure Amy and Seth. The two came up near him, and he ended up killing Will right in front of Amy. A brutal fight broke out, and an electric knife seriously wounded Seth. Amy dragged him into a room to tend to his injuries, and it is here she finally revealed why she quit medical school. It was because she could not handle the inevitability of death. Then, she noticed a way she could escape. One of the windows led straight to the ground floor. Before making her move, she kissed Seth, then squeezed through, desperate to find help. As soon as she reached the parking lot, she saw Jacob was there waiting for her. She had no other choice. She ran back inside. Soon, she was stabbed to death, and it was just as she was trying to unlock a side exit. Now it was just Seth and Jacob. In a last-ditch effort, Seth fought back as much as he could. He found an embalming tube and then stabbed it into Jacob's body. This pumped his body full of toxic chemicals. Jacob started shaking because of this, and he soon became still. It looked like everything was finally over, but that was not the case. Seth managed to escape the place through a broken window. He was bleeding and shaken, but he made it to his car. As he pulled up to the exit, relief started to wash over him, but then he sensed something. Before he could react to it, Jacob lunged from the seat. How this guy keeps coming back after everything that happened to him is still a mystery to me. The last thing Seth ever saw was Jacob's hands as they reached for his face, gouging out his eyes. Jacob Goodnight had claimed his final victim. Traits and abilities of Jacob Goodnight. Jacob Goodnight is a huge man who is almost 7 feet tall, and he weighs almost 400 pounds. Trust me, he is not the kind of guy you want to run into in a dark alley, or anywhere, really. His presence alone is enough to make your skin crawl. His teeth are crooked and stained, almost like he has not seen a toothbrush in years. But it's his eyes that make his appearance so unsettling. They are 2 different colors. One of them, his left, is a light turquoise. His right is a yellowish brown. To top it all, he has a steel plate that has been screwed into his skull. He also has extremely sharp fingernails, which he uses to gouge out the eyes of his victims, like we discussed earlier. Given his sheer size and build, his strength is inhuman. He can lift a fully grown man as if he weighs nothing. We see this firsthand when he throws Tyson under the vault like he's tossing a pillow, crushing him instantly. But it's not just his brute force that makes him terrifying, it's how utterly unstoppable he is. This man has been shot in the head, pumped full of embalming fluid, stabbed through the hand, and still, he keeps going. Even having his heart pierced didn't stop him. The makers of this film have truly stretched the concept of willing suspension of disbelief to its limit, bringing him back time and time again despite everything he endures. And if that wasn't enough, Jacob is eerily stealthily. He has an uncanny ability to appear out of nowhere, creeping up behind his victims without them noticing until it's far too late. Just like when he suddenly shows up behind Seth in his car. Marvelous verdict. Well, with that, guys, we've come to the end of yet another video. Jacob seems like a character who is really hard to kill. It wouldn't be a surprise to see him back on a killing spree after this. What do you guys think about him? How do you think his character is compared to other villains from slasher films? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more like this. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time.